The fourth annual BDO Affordability Index was published last week. If you're unfamiliar with it, well, so was I. But the study is essentially an in depth analysis on the affordability of life in Canada, as this year's report is showing the impacts of the pandemic on Canadians' ability to save. To talk about the findings, I'm joined by Senior VP of BDO Accounting, Brian Veers. So, Brian, thanks so much for being here. But to open things up, for most people to hear that the pandemic is negatively impacting Canadians' ability to save, that probably isn't coming as much of a surprise. I was wondering, though, if you could maybe just touch base on some of the surrounding factors that have also contributed to this reality, such as the rising cost of living that we're seeing across the country.
Thank you. My pleasure. Yes, the obviously the pandemic changed the world, and we're going on 2 years now. And really, the biggest factor I think is that it is even made the divide larger between those people who are doing well and those who aren't. And the bottom line being that in Canada, the pandemic has been a detriment to about half the population, a little less than half. But to a quarter of the population, it's actually been good financially. So those people that were able to work, able to cut costs because they couldn't travel anymore, things like that, professional services, banks, things like that, they've done well because they don't rely on meeting with people face to face to do business. Whereas people in the restaurant industry, industry, and whatnot have suffered and continue to suffer because their income has been down, and a lot of their income has been from government support, and that coupled with increase in expenses. So we all know that gassing up your car is horrendous now. It's a lot of money. I think we're in for a lot of heating expenses this winter. It's going to be a cold winter and natural gas prices are going up. Food has gone up in price. Inflation is becoming a factor. So these factors are all leading into people having a hard time if they're in that group that has suffered.
And just because we're here in the border city, how do things in Alberta and Saskatchewan compare to the rest of the country? Where are they similar and where are they different?
We've been hurt the most. Given the economic downturn we've suffered in Alberta and Saskatchewan, and unfortunately, Alberta and Saskatchewan has suffered the most from COVID. So certainly we are suffering more than anyone else is suffering. And that is making things a little bit bleak because of half the people that were surveyed, half believe, or of the people surveyed, half believe they will never get back to where they were. And I think the biggest problem is there's no end in sight. I don't know when this is all going to end. I never thought it would go on this long. And it's going on this long. And eventually, I believe soon the government subsidies are going to stop in one way or another, and that's going to change the game again. So, on the balance, Alberta and Saskatchewan have suffered more than the rest of the country on account of those factors.
So, spending on essentials, job loss, and reduced income are also contributing to this toll on people's ability to save in the country. Your report is stating that roughly 42% of Canadians were saving less or not at all over the course of this last year. A lot of people surely feel like they aren't getting the help or support that they might deserve. But I just wanted to ask you for maybe some advice. What kind of things can people do to help better manage their savings this next year?
I would say that dealing with finances and debt is one of those things you need to get on it sooner than later. And I have a terrible analogy. It's like if you think you have cancer, go to the doctor now as opposed to waiting. And licensed insolvency trustees, which we are, we're all here to help. And I really prefer when people come in to see me earlier than later, because if they come in earlier and the situation is not too bad, maybe we can do a proposal to their creditors. Maybe they can get a consolidation loan from the bank, tap into house equity. Problem being, though, that lots of people don't come in early, they wait too long. But certainly, LITs, licensed insolvency trustees, can help with budgeting. We do consumer proposals. In situations where there is no other way out, there's bankruptcies to allow a clean start. But that's what we do. And based on what's happening, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Canada-wide, these are tough times, and I think they're going to get tougher. That being said, the sooner you get on it, the better off you're going to be, and the sooner you can sleep at night.
Thanks so much for doing this, Brian.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, man.